Okay. Am I on? I'm on. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. The first talk I'm doing this week about Vizio and what we can do with Vizio for helping. Hi there, out there. I recognize some of you. All right. So, what are you going to see? Well, first of all, you're going to see three amigos up here. Myself, David Parker, and I'm a Vizio MVP of 15 years standing. Been doing this stuff for over 20 years. And we've got Daniel Solomon here, is my client, who's going to be talking about a solution. And then we've got Abhishek over there, who's from Microsoft. All right, so he's going to come on at the end, and if we've got time, we'll answer some questions. If not, come and see us on the Vizio booth. All right? Okay, so today's agenda. We're going to talk about some of the ways that you can actually program with Vizio. In particular, we're going to look at what makes Vizio smart and the APIs that you've got available to you to interact and create solutions with Vizio. Okay? And then we're going to go through a custom story. I should go back one, shouldn't I, there? A custom story which Daniel's going to present and show you how that can be realized and how that can help you understand the information that you have. So we've got Vizio that can be a consumer of data, a visualizer of data, but it could also be used to create data. All right? But we're not going to go too much into that aspect today. And then we're going to have Abhishek who's going to come up and hopefully he's going to show us tell us all the wonderful things that Microsoft are going to do for us going forward, which should take an awful long time. Right. And then we're going to have a Q&A if we have time. Depends how quickly I speak. Now, I speak in very fast English, so if you don't understand me, come and see me on the stand. Right. First thing, Vizio API Integrations. Why? First of all, what is Vizio? Well, you've seen the wonderful new logo that Microsoft have produced, which is cool. Which is, I think I've had point that way. How does Vizio get its smartness? A shape in Vizio. Two types of shapes primarily. One we call a block shape or a two-dimensional shape. One we call a 1D shape, which is usually used for connecting things together. This is one of the intrinsic elements of a structured diagram is you've got shapes and you can connect them together. And they know they are connected together, which is also pretty critical for this. So, Vizio gets its power really because behind every one of these shapes is a shape sheet. That shape sheet is just like an Excel worksheet where you can, everyone here has played with Excel. You can put formulas in Excel which do little calculations, right? And it does some manipulation of the data. Vizio's got one extra superpower, is that it can take a result of some of those manipulations and push them into another cell. Something that really Excel can't do is push it somewhere else. So that means that our shapes can actually transform themselves from one appearance to another according to some data that you supply it with. So that data can be used, and if you link it to a refreshable data source, it can actually update your shapes automatically. Right? If this is not enough for you, we've also got the capability of using the APIs within Vizio that are made available to us for both in the desktop version and within the web version. Right? The web version currently is a read-only one. The desktop one is a read-write, as you'll see. Okay? So, some of the key elements of what we want to do here is to use Vizio in the cloud. Now for this goodness, really, a lot of this goodness, we want it to be OneDrive for Business or SharePoint Online. So if our Vizio documents are stored there, then how can we use them? Well, we've got really 4 key ways in which we can actually view or consume those Vizio documents. We've got the desktop app, which is, for those in marketing spiel, Vizio Online Plan 2. We've got the Vizio Web Editor, which is Vizio Online Plan 1. We've got the Vizio Web Viewer, which is free to everybody who's got an Office 365 license. And there is a native app for Vizio for iOS. Now each one of those has got some separate capabilities. You'll see that the Vizio desktop app by far has some of the greatest richness of features that you've got to program with. All right? So we can do things with Vizio desktop app that we can't do with the Vizio Web Editor currently. Right? So the Vizio Web Editor, Vizio Online Plan 1, which is obviously a lesser amount of subscription each month, you can create a whole load of diagram types. But what you haven't got is shape data and hyperlinks and custom templates. These are pretty crucial for third-party developers like myself who are trying to create solutions. You've got the Vizio Web Viewer, which has got some pretty cool stuff as well, and you can interact with that, as we will see in a moment. And then we've got the iOS one, which gives us at least some layer control, Abhishek. All right, so we've got our Vizio document, lives in the cloud store, as we've mentioned. All right, so once we've got that Vizio document, on the Windows desktop side, our options are, we can use the built-in VBA to interact, and quite often I'll use that for some immediacy and creating some code to do something quickly. Or I will create a few admin tools, things that are not for general release. More seriously, you can use the .NET APIs and create yourself some add-ins, which is what we've done in the next solution that we'll see. You can also embed the Vizio document within Power BI desktop, if that document is within the cloud, wherever it was created from. And then within the web, we can incorporate those Vizio documents within the Vizio Online Viewer, within SharePoint web pages or within Teams, and we can interact with them using JavaScript. And we can write some pretty cool interfaces doing that. We can also use Power BI for the web and embed our documents there. So, I mean, these are pretty cool because the person who's the Power BI expert, he doesn't need to have a Vizio license, he only needs the Vizio Viewer, which is free. He can use his Power BI skills, but he might need to tell the Vizio developer how to make it efficient. Come to our booth and you'll see some of that. So, I'm now going to hand over to Daniel over here. He's going to tell you how you can use that armory.
Thanks, David. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. So yeah, a little bit about Robinson Morton. We are a general contractor. We're number 66 in the country, but number 2 for healthcare. So we are the second biggest general contractor for hospital construction. And we actually just won this year the ENR Contractor of the Year for 2019. We're super proud about that. So construction is really special, right? Every project is custom, and every project we always have a plan. So we use Microsoft Project, and sometimes we use P6 to manage those plans. Now, what makes construction really special about that is most of our projects are at least 1,000 activities long. And I have been on projects and I've managed projects that had 10,000 or more activities. So this can get a little bit crazy. So here is a picture of one project that we have actually just down the road in Tampa, St. Joe Inpatient Bed Tower. And this is the project in the form of a Gantt chart. Now, project is great, right? Because it has logic. You know, if you have a task that gets delayed, you can see the waterfall effect of that, all the dependencies, etc. And then when litigation comes, if it does come, you're very well prepared for that. However, there's the downside to it. Gantt charts are a little bit hard to read. From your distance where you're at now, it's hard to read. Even up closer, it's even harder to read, okay? So, and it's not just hard to read for executives. Myself as a scheduler, if I look at a Gantt chart that even I created, I go, okay, this is related to this task. It's very hard to digest and comprehend. So now, think about the layman, the carpenter, right? The iron worker, the guy that doesn't do project management for a living. He's having difficulty understanding this. So we've created a tool called Timetable. It's a way to visualize those schedules. Now, we actually have been using Vizio for the last, since it's come out, probably 20 years, to create these timetables. And here's kind of a side view of one. And I'll show you a little front view. So this is the timetable. Now, this organizes tasks in the way that we like, nothing like the Gantt chart. Much easier to read, and in fact takes almost 10% the amount of paper. There's a really big savings in paper, but also really big savings in understanding. So this is a great tool. So I'll show you kind of a demo of how it works. Now again, David, we reached out to him about a year and a half ago, and he's been extremely helpful in helping us automate the process of creating these timetables. So before we did it manually, and now with David's help, he's created a plugin for us in Vizio that automates this process there. We can take schedules from project and put it in the format that we like in Vizio, and then be able to print that and put it on our wall. So this, I'll hit restart on this one. So as soon as you open up the template, you get the option to import the schedule. Let's see if that works. So there's our configure. Now what's really nice about this is we get to choose the date range in which we want to import, so you don't have to bring in the entire schedule, but you also get to choose the vertical. You get to choose which parts of that work breakdown structure that you want to import. This is actually something we didn't even ask for. We didn't know it was possible. David said, hey, why don't we make it an option? And actually, it's one of the best features that we have. So after that, it's actually relatively quickly how it works to import. And you can see that it imported all the tasks in the format that we like and then placed them, with a very efficient space. And you can also see the relationships, right? The next thing we asked them to do is say, hey, we want to be able to color code this according to trade. But let's not limit it to trade. Let's say any custom fields or any resource allocation. We want the user to be able to color code this, to be able to change the colors, be able to turn colors on and off, export the configuration and everything. Really extremely helpful, and it was a must-have that we need to have, and David made that possible. Another thing we realized is we said, hey, when you're creating schedules in projects, sometimes those task descriptions are really long. But to go through these thousands of activities to rename them, to make them more concise, is almost impossible. So he actually helped us create an abbreviations feature. So we actually have a CSV file that's essentially a dictionary that allows you to kind of rename all these files. One thing I forgot to show too is here we have, you can see some activities are in red. Those are critical activities, right? So any activities that are critical, and this basically means is if this activity gets delayed by 1 day, then your project gets delayed by 1 day. So that is what we call a critical activity. So we have the ability now to highlight those in red. There's the abbreviations. Next, there we go. All right, so the next thing is those links, right? So we imported those links, but usually about 95% of those links are, I don't want to say redundant, but they're not driving links, right? So they could probably be removed without affecting the schedule. So actually what we'll do is we'll hide them. So we show just the driving links. These are what are important. This is what you need to know. We get to reduce some of that clutter. And then also we have these date range prints. So sometimes we just want to print a 6-week version of our schedule. If you guys have done agile development, you're familiar with that. You're getting closer to the work, and so now you're going to get a little bit more detailed of a schedule. We have that option. The next thing is showing the outline. We can jump to different work breakdown structures, and also be able to put that legend on the actual paper, so you can see what the colors mean and what they stand for. Another thing we do is we add that time scale that we chose. You can actually change that time scale after the fact. And another thing we asked David to do is create a bunch of manual, what we're calling manual shapes for us that users can drag on. One of those is the cloud shape, and this attaches to the task and it follows the task wherever it goes. And actually you can label those however you want. We have some other manual shapes that he's added for us. This one is a float shape, and it just tells you how much time is between the start and finish of that arrow. We have some manual tasks, some milestones that just basically show you some data. And then us being in the construction industry, we love seeing these scales, right? We want to make sure, hey, how long is this period? So then we also have these title blocks. So we could take any data from the schedule, right? The date, the project name, et cetera, and put that on. So it's really beneficial, very quick and easy for our users. Doesn't always work.
It's me.
All right. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Right. Very quickly, I'm going to just point out some of the key elements you just saw there. Connectivity, pretty clear. we got the predecessors and successors from the tasks. Containment, the work breakdown, summary tasks, work breakdown structure tasks, they were containers. Order in the legends, you saw them coming out in an order. That was a list type. Associations, the clouds, they were call-outs. These are the key elements of a structured diagram within Vizio, okay? However, that's not the only thing that you can do, is create these solutions within Vizio on desktop. You can create solutions with the cloud version as well, Vizio Online. How do I make that play? Right, just tap on there. Okay, this is 1 minute, and then we're going to have Abhishek here. He's going to talk a bit more about this. But this is a SharePoint web page with JavaScript, using the JavaScript API against the Vizio shape. And it's just roll here slowly, and it seems to have paused. Right, it's paused. Right, Abhishek, would you like to come up here, because you've got 5 minutes left to do that.
Thanks a lot, David and Daniel. So I'm Abhishek, I'm from the product group, and I have with me Dharma as well. So you guys just saw what the powerful visual canvas how it can be used to create powerful visual solutions. And I'm going to talk about some of the new improvements that we are doing in Visio APIs and how the future looks like. So in addition to what you already saw, we are also enabling a bunch of new APIs which are right now there in the public preview. For example, custom HTML overlay. So on any diagramming canvas, you can have your own custom page available on top of the Visio shapes. And you can also control the level of pan and zoom. And beyond that, we're also allowing you to do some more UI customizations within the Visio canvas as well. So talking about the continuous momentum that we have seen, so we launched Visio Online and the associated JavaScript APIs in 2017 and have been continuously improving it. In fact, if you look at the future, we are going to make new additions. Right now, what we talked about is Visio Canvas you can embed in SharePoint. However, going forward, you can actually embed Visio Canvas in any of the other applications, and you can have APIs associated with it to operate on it as well. We'll start allowing import of custom content so that you can have your own content, you can create your own custom diagrams, and then you can have all these capabilities that we talked about on top of your custom diagrams as well. There's a powerful new capability in Visio which is called Data Visualizer, wherein if you have structured data in Excel, just by click of a button, you can create diagrams automatically. You don't have to really drag and drop and place shapes on the canvas. And that we are going to expose in form of API so that any developer should be able to create their own custom diagrams based on the kind of data that they might have. And lastly, all the things that we talked about have been only related to viewer. We're also going to enable all these APIs in the web editor so that you have a canvas in which if somebody is modifying any content, then also you can actually receive the events and perform the actions that might be available at that point of time. So that is all from my side in terms of what the future of Vizio Web APIs look like. We have many more sessions lined up for Vizio, and we have a booth right across the diagonal over there at the end. So request you to please visit there. There are a bunch of cool things, new innovations happening in Vizio. Do give us a visit, and we'll be happy to explain you. And finally, if you want to reach out to us, this is the alias, tellvizio@microsoft.com. Feel free to write a mail to us, and we'll be happy to respond as well. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll do. I don't think...
Any questions? We can take it, or even afterwards.
If there's any burning questions, do come and ask us, and we'll try to answer them.
Hello? Okay. One simple thing that I didn't see is that it's not about creating things dynamically, but changing an existing diagram, changing the variables, number one. Number two is that keeping the existing diagram, adding objects, and keep the shape, something like that. You know?
Well, I think we mentioned there the data visualizer. Data visualizer can take data and create you a diagram automatically. It can add shapes to the diagram, linked shapes to the diagram. The data diagram types that you've got at the moment are process flows, whether it be simple, cross-functional, or you can create an org chart with them. But going forward, there will be other diagram types coming out of it, and it can actually be adapted and deployed to others as well.
I mean, my situation, I have lots of diagram, but it's static. And my environment changes, my diagram doesn't reflect that. Whether it's a static diagram where the content could be changed, the name, or static diagram, but maybe it's expanded. So I need to add more similar object within that, what do you call, the shape.
Yeah,
that I
it
have.
really depends on your diagram type.
I see.
And whether or not you can use Data Visualizer or have some custom code written for you. So we can.
Could I do that
Yes.
myself, since you have the API?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything.
Come to our stand,
I see.
and we'll go through that, and we'll show you some examples of how you can do that.
Okay, that's good.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You used to have